Hello and welcome to the Group 3 Mythic Managers presentation on our project. It's a midterm. Um, the name of our show is Just Joe's, and this is produced and presented by Allison Gray, Luke Severn, and Courtney Kelleher for the Management 3025 class. So let's head right into the concept, starting off with setting. So our setting is Joe Cappuccino's bar, and despite the coffee moniker, it is not a coffee shop. Of course, it's a bar where alcohol is served. And so, Just Joe's takes place in a popular college bar located near the campus in downtown St. Petersburg, which should be familiar to our audience and this class. And so students come to have a drink and enjoy the ambience of the bar after a stressful day in class. And due to the setting and the characters involved, the target age for this situation would be 18 to 25 years old, which is either you're someone entering college or someone who's recently left college. So they should be able to relate. And so the concept targeted in the story is that all employees should be treated fair and ethically rather than having favoritism over certain employees, which will be expanded upon in the plot and with the characters. That'll be the core of the story. The myth of this being is you can't treat everyone fair, but if you want to keep your top people, then you have to have favoritism, which is totally untrue, and we'll show that through this show. And so in this story, as an example, Hannah, one of the workers, will have to confront Joe, the owner of the shop, and tell him she did not feel treated equally in this situation, and Joe will have to learn to treat his employees fairly. Joe will have to tell Jenny to set a good example for the newer employees, rather than getting upset at them. So moving on, let's get to the characters. So we're going to start off with the cast. Our character selection is varied. We have both male, female, and different workers, but they are all also different ages. Let's move on. Our first character we're going to introduce to you is the namesake of the show, Joe Cappuccino. He is 32. He has managed Just Joe's for 10 years. He's a lifelong resident of the area, and he's a micromanager, which means he manages the big picture rather than a small picture. So he likes to focus on the company as a whole, or business, or shop, so we say. So he has a great personality and work ethic, but he lacks in management relations with his employees. He's not an interpersonal person as much, so he has trouble dealing with and talking to employees when they have uh, problems, basically. So he's also going to have to learn how to treat his employees equally in this. So Joe represents the temporal immediacy interval between the time an action occurs and onset of consequences via uh, the management text. And because he's a stubborn man, as soon as he hears of situations at hand, he'll go to confront it, and he won't think as much, so he might overreact and not act in the most appropriate manner. He does have he has a strong regard for honesty and fairness, so he represents the management concentration effect, the extent to which contact to consequences is focused on a few individuals or dispersed across many. He has morals, but sometimes money gets in the way of what is right in his eyes. But he will listen to people, and uh, oftentimes that money is less to him than what than fairness and honesty. He's shy and slightly soft-spoken, but when he sees something truly wrong, he always finds the strength to address the problem. And here we have him represented. These are the pre-production photos, so this will not be how he'll seen as in the finger puppet, but this is how we imagine him sort of looking. Next up, our second character, and one of the more important ones, or they're all equally important, but she's the protagonist or the main focus of the story, is Hannah Cloverfield. She's 22. She's a new hire at Just Joe's. She recently moved to St. Petersburg. She's excited and eager to learn and excel, and she's a student, so she's working at this place to make money, and she wants to do her best job so she can get the most pay she can, the most tips. But she also often uses her income for personal whim, and she's by the book, so she'll follow the rules as they're set up. So Anna, on the management side of things, represents the magnitude of consequences, so she anticipates the level of impact of the outcome of a given situation before things happen. And she's also represents the social consensus aspect, so to the extent to which members agree that an act is either good or bad. So she is a very black and white person. She doesn't see any gray, like only good or evil. So facts often determine how she sees events and situations more than anything. Um, she's very hard-headed, stubborn, outspoken, and has strong work ethic that drives any business. She makes things through and is very tactical and honest. She tries to be funny when she works, but she won't let that get in the way of being serious and doing the right thing. All right, and here we have our third and final character. She's Jenny Jenkins, and she too is represented through these photos that will soon be converted into the finger puppets. So she's 26, has lived in St. Pete for a number of years. She's kind of a counter character. I wouldn't say foil exactly, but she's the older veteran character that Hannah will look up to. So she's worked at Just Joe's for nearly 4 years. She's exactly 4 years older than Hannah. It's kind of ironic. She supports her family on her own. She's driven, but she has lost her work ethic. So she's been working here at Just Joe's for a number of years, and in that time, she's kind of figured out how to game the system, how to work hard while not working hard. How to basically, she knows how to take advantage of what the customers give her, and she worries about the results rather than execution of what she does, but uh, she doesn't worry so much when the money comes coming in still. So she's in charge of training the staff. So she'll be the one in charge of training Hannah, thus, of course. So she relates to management in that probability of effect that she considers likelihood that a given situation will happen. So whenever she sort of slacks off, she thinks about what will happen if she does that, and when she sees that there's like a 0% chance that she's gonna get in trouble for it, she'll just go for it. And she also relates to management in the proximity effect, and that refers to an individual's psych, physical or psychological closeness to an outcome. So this prevents her from feeling any remorse for what she does because there is no outcome, so she doesn't have to worry about. So she's usually right on the money when it comes to guessing how things will come out, as well as how bad or good the outcome is. But ever since Hannah was coming into the situation, the way she worked never came up and never seemed to bother anyone. Why fix something that isn't broken? So we have 4 episodes planned out at the moment, and they are an arc of sorts, which includes some character development and drama and plot. So the first episode is an introduction to the workplace and characters. This episode is like any first episode in the series, an introduction of characters and their backgrounds. So in this episode, Hannah interviews with Joe and gets hired in the position. She starts training and learning and learns the ropes of the business. Hannah is introduced to Jenny, as Jenny will be training her for the next couple of weeks. So in this episode, we introduce all the characters. You meet all of them. You get sort of used to their personalities, but you still don't quite know them yet. And the problem doesn't arise until episode 2. So episode 2 is where the meat of the conflict begins. So Hannah learns how to work at the bar and seems to have picked up some of Jenny's bad habits. However, in comparison, Hannah turns out to be a more dedicated worker than Jenny, even if she does have some of Jenny's flaws. In this episode, Hannah is working at the bar by herself and displays some of the bad habits she has picked up from Jenny. Joe notices these unacceptable attributes instead of her other desirable work attributes and makes a beeline over to Hannah to have a harsh word with her. And so they sort of get into a fight, and this is where the conflict between Jenny, Joe, and Hannah begins, where they try to figure out why things aren't working as they should be. So episode 2 ended up with Joe making his way to Hannah and starting to talk with her. And so this episode's where the conversation happens, really. So he starts to scold Hannah over what's going on, what's going wrong, and uh, Hannah isn't sure how to reply because she thought it was okay since what she was doing was what Jenny does. And so Hannah gets basically publicly humiliated in front of customers and the other employees. So Hannah from there has to think and decide about what she did wrong and what Joe did wrong and how she can approach him and they can resolve this together. So episode 4 is the end of the arc we created, and it's also the episode where Hannah speaks privately with Joe about the situation. It's where everything was just resolved. So she stands up for herself and makes a point to Joe about how he's basically treated her and family and is playing favorites. So Joe considers the argument and realizes she is right. In the future, Joe more carefully considers how to treat employees and also how to put out policy. So in a way, conflict's been resolved, there's been resolution, there's been character development, and there's also been some entertainment jokes in between, such. All right, let's go over why this product will be a big success. So our execution. So the Mythic managers will be able to successfully execute the show to completion because each Mythic manager has special skills they bring to the table. Luke Severin will lend his superior voice acting capabilities in his role as the character Joe Cappuccino. In addition, Luke will use his technical skills to aid in video editing and presentations. Allison, the head writer of the Mythic Managers, will lend her writing skills ensure the story told in Just Joe's is coherent and interesting, while also keeping the characters genuine and relatable. She will also lend her voice acting talent to the character of Jenny. Lastly, Courtney will use her mastery of crafts to ensure the setting and characters portrayed within the show fit the serious yet comic style of Just Joe's. She will also voice act a character, the protagonist, Hannah Cloverfield. Now that we've talked about the execution, let's talk about what the Mythic Managers have still yet to accomplish. So the first thing is we have to actually make the finger puppets. So the photos you saw of the characters are, of course, that's not what we're going to use for the finger puppets. This is not a live action. This is a finger puppet. So we're going to have to transfer those faces onto little finger puppets to be used for the show. We also need to work on the background settings for Joe's bar. Luckily, it's only one setting the whole time, so it should be easy enough to build a stage setting. Next up, we have to do milestone 3, and milestone 3 is a storyboard of sorts, which we've already sort of done, but we can definitely expand on it to include more detail and emphasis on character dialogue, jokes, development. And then after that is milestone 4, which is a booklet on the book, which is a pretty much an expanded version of everything we've already talked about with characters and episodes and how it relates to management. And after those two are done, we will work on the actual filming of the episodes, which is not due for another month or so. But we definitely got a lot of work to do, but I'm confident in all of us that we will be able to do all of this. We completed milestone 1 and 2 early, and I've got a comment for being class leaders in doing so. And I believe we will succeed in whatever task is set out for us. This brings us to the final portion of our presentation, which is actually the end. So thank you for watching and listening to our proposal. We hope you enjoy what you've seen, and we're confident that everything will go smoothly as we move forward from here. Thank you.